maybe okay, I'll accept that. Maybe others will join us, we'll see. Yeah, so I don't know if we've met before, but just to say quickly who I am, my name's Charlie Gray. I might need to change my name just in case you want to find me. And yeah, I am a community grower in Bradford, and we grow in the city centre, very urban project, and I've been saving seeds there at Horton Community Farm for about 7 years, probably maybe a bit longer actually, but quite informally. And then this year, well, actually 2020 in July, so it's a year and a bit now, I started with the Gaia Foundation Seed Sovereignty Programme. So I'm the Northern England coordinator for the Seed Sovereignty Programme. So that's why I hosted a session, very similar session last year, and just thought, well, hopefully it's useful to you know, just to gather again and say, so what's happened this year, where are people at, and maybe new people are joining, and just to let people know that there is a network and how we can connect. Yeah, so and then I met Katherine this year, and I'll hand over to Katherine.
Yeah, I'm Katherine Howell. I'm based in Middlesbrough, and we run a community interest company that's all connected with kind of plot to plate projects. So I do a little bit like Charlie, do a lot of kind of urban food growing at the grassroots kind of level, and have been saving seeds kind of not terribly well for quite a long time, and just really kind of got bitten by the bug. Went to the Gaia Foundation's introductory sessions on seed saving, absolutely loved it, signed up for the intermediate course and doing that now. And also the International Seed Exchange Programme as well, which has been really interesting. So I've fully kind of launched myself into it, not always with a massive degree of success, but certainly with plenty of enthusiasm. And I feel like I'm in a very privileged position where what I learn, I'm able to share with the people that I grow with, which has really sparked a lot of interest in our town. So so very much on the kind of the beginning stages of the journey, but looking forward to learning more and meeting some incredible people along the way, and hearing some incredible stories as well. So that's been really great actually. So very pleased to kind of meet you all. As Charlie mentioned, this is really kind of an open forum for discussion, so we'd welcome people's experiences and questions and ideas, and hopefully by sharing that we can kind of move things forward and regain some of the seed sovereignty that we need in this country. That felt a little bit like a politician's speech, I'm afraid. I felt like I was on my COP26 prime ministerial soapbox there. So yeah, sorry about that. Got off on one.
No, it's good to hear your enthusiasm, Katherine. And yeah, Melanie's also on the intermediate course as well. So we have some well, yeah, it's hard to say who's listening and who's present with us. So we'll maybe see where everybody's at. It might be nice to say, you know, what kind of seed saving, you know, ask what kind of seed saving people have done, you know, if there are particular seeds you're excited about, and any challenges or particular things you'd particularly like to know about, and also I guess where you are, and if you're you know, you have your own space or you're linked to a project. Yeah, so yeah, so like Katherine said, it can be fairly open, but I know it's often hard to start. So maybe Katherine and I could share a little bit more, and Melanie as well, if you'd like to, and then but feel free to hop in, and if you'd like to put your cameras on, it's always nice to see people, but obviously don't feel pressured. I know some people that might be getting tea and stuff, so that's fine too. But yeah, so yeah, so I wanted to share, I'm really excited. In January last year in Seed Week, we launched in Bradford a seed library. It's called Seeds of Hope, and it's quite a long story, but I think this will be back to front, won't it? But anyway, we had these specially designed packets made. It's in memory of someone who used to work at our community farm and on this print project. And so I've been saving these seeds for a long time and kind of wondering what to do with them. And then got involved in the seed program and heard more from Anna and Dennis at Lancaster Seed Library, and Melanie I'd met actually as well, and heard about the Seeds of Justice film, I think it was, and just trying to work out what to do with the seeds. And so yeah, finally we've got these seed packets. There was a long story because unfortunately the printer friend Nick from the print project in Shipley, Bradford, he had an accident, unfortunately, a bike accident. He's on the mend, but it meant he was out of action for a while. So the design, I did with him, and he really pulled it off into a packet. And so we've got these special packets for people who join the seed library, and I'm excited about those. I thought I'd like to share that with you. And we've just had a little bit of interesting pre-discussion, because at the moment I've got some Cherokee Trail of Tears bean seeds in here, and I understand that there's a sensitive history, to the beans, because they were beans that First Nations people developed over their history and took with them when they were forced off their lands. And Katherine was just saying that in a chat space, people were saying they were looking to change the name. So I don't currently sell those beans, they're given or shared, but yeah, interesting to think about. So yeah, that's something that I'm excited about. Maybe other people would like to share.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to kick off kind of my seed journey this year. So as part of the intermediate course, we've looked at one particular seed crop, and kind of propagating that to create more seeds. And because I really needed an easy life, I chose something that I knew was going to be really easy to do with that. And I found that there was a local variety of pea called the Stokesley pea. So Stokesley is a little town about 7 miles away from Middlesbrough. It's kind of where we all aspire to live. It's one of those kind of places, and we'll never get to because we do this kind of job. So I found out about these Stokesley peas that were listed with the Heritage Seed Library, but have since been taken off that list. And I thought, well, that's a real shame, because Middlesbrough really isn't known for its kind of seed production. And wouldn't that be lovely if we were known for something other than grime and depression and deprivation and closed steelworks? And so I started I wrote to the Seed Library and asked them if they could pull some out for me. And this was in the midst of COVID, and a lovely lady responded and sent me some seeds through the post. So I started off with, I think it was only about kind of 12 pea seeds. There wasn't many at all. And subsequently managed to get some more off somebody else that I added to them, that gave me kind of 37. So I planted 37 seeds and 3 survived, which was not the best start, if I'm honest. So I've had 3 pea plants, and I've basically over the course of the year managed to nurture and love and care for these 3 pea plants, to the point that I've now got 42 pea seeds for next year. So I kind of feel like I've had some degree of success, but not really. I had all these great aspirations about giving all these peas to everybody, and wouldn't it be crazy? And we could even have like a Stokesley pea party. And as it happens, I've really just managed to kind of cover my back a little bit. But it's been a really lovely discussion, lovely journey, where I've had discussions with, I found the Seed Guardian with the Heritage Seed Library for Stokesley peas, and she's told me what she's known. So we've been in touch, and I've managed to figure out, apparently they came from a blacksmith, and I know a blacksmith who's like in his 80s. So I asked him, and he was like, oh yeah, he'll be so-and-so, so-and-so, he's utterly crazy. And I've had this lovely we built this kind of really lovely little small network of people who are all connected with the Stokesley pea in some way. So in a sense, kind of that has been both lovely, but it also, I think, has highlighted how important this kind of knowledge is in terms of our local areas, and how important it is that we kind of not only kind of propagate the seeds, but also propagate the stories behind that and the relationships that exist because of this. So it's been a really, really lovely journey, actually, and very excited about kind of taking it into next year and being able to share that with more people. So so that's where I am at the moment, and it's been great. And you know, I've had a lot of support from the seed through the seed course and from the Gaia Foundation to learn more about what the potential is for next year as well. So a very interesting journey. Charlie, I was just noticing in the chat we've got a little comment from Luke, who's in Sheffield and is interested in seed saving and has been watching some of the seed gathering videos, which I think just went live today. Is that right? Yeah. So that's cool. It was a fantastic kind of online conference where there was just so much to learn and so much to experience. So, and I think it's just gone live on the Gaia Foundation website today. So all the links to the recordings there, well worth a watch as well. So Melanie, did you want to say something about your, I don't know what to call it. Is it a seed journey? Something like that?
Not particularly. I mean, I'm learning and doing various seeds like the rest of us, but there was a couple of things to mention. I got the t-shirt from the Gaia weekend. So in a minute, I'm just going to go and grab one because I think they're brilliant. And
I thought you were going to do like a Superman thing where you were just going to kind of fling off all the outside layers.
This room's freezing. I'm not going to take my jumper off. And the other thing was, if on that weekend we connected about grains and cereals, and there's some really super stories about that as well. And last night I hosted a session from Scotland the Bread, and it was absolutely brilliant. So for anybody that's on here that didn't see it, when we release the recordings, it's well worth watching. It was really, really interesting.
I think that was one of the surprising things from the seed conference for me, is that I hadn't even really considered cereal grains as seeds before for some reason, possibly because they're not so relevant in an urban environment when you're growing. But actually some of those sessions on cereal grains were really quite exciting and quite new, and I find myself kind of more interested in them than I anticipated, which was great. So I'm just wondering, Luke, would you like to say anything about kind of where you're at the moment, if you're listening in? I think that might be a no.
Yeah, no, he's written in the chat. Give me 1 second. He might need to find something to microphone or something.
Oh, smashing. Yeah, it'd be lovely to hear you actually.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
I've got a bit of a cold, so I was just listening in bed, so I've moved away. I've just started looking into seed saving and heritage seeds in general. I've been interested in starting an organic farm or a market garden, and I quite like seed saving. I'd be interested in seed saving being part of that in some way. My interest kind of came from my granddad actually, who used to save all of his seeds on his allotment. So we kind of have this like family tie with some. I hope to learn more about it over the next few years.
Excellent. Luke, have you got some space to kind of grow in your market garden? Have you managed to find somewhere?
Well, I'm starting small to begin with. I'm actually going to view some land on Saturday. I had a chance encounter with another dog walker who has some spare land and is happy for me to grow on it. So I'm going to go have a look at it, and hopefully it will be good. It's a good time to find somewhere, so because I can spend some time getting it ready over the next couple of months for the new season.
Yeah,
comes ahead.
Definitely.
Whereabouts? Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I was going to say, whereabouts are you, Luke?
In Sheffield.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So there's quite a lot of land around here, and there are quite a lot of farms, organic farms on the outskirts of the city. And I think there's quite a lot of research around peri-urban farms in Sheffield. but I'm not really aware of any sort of seed saving groups in the city itself or in the surrounding areas.
Well, yeah, funnily enough, there is the Sheffield wheat experiment.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah.
So another grain connection. Yeah, I kind of feel like I would like to do a bit more of a map. Maps notoriously go out, like any kind of listing or documenting, they go out of date really quickly. But we do have a map on the website, and I will actually make sure we add things like the Sheffield wheat experiment and any of the projects I've come across. So there should be more on it soon. Actually, that needs doing. But yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah, I think I also I used to have an allotment and experimented with growing some heritage seeds, some plants that you would maybe typically not see on an allotment. So I was growing like amaranth and a few other things that were amazing and fun to grow. So I'm like keen to continue experimenting with those sort of unique crops that you wouldn't see more normally.
Maya's in that area as well. It'd be worth putting him in touch with Maya.
Oh yes, yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'll do that. Luke, do you have an email address that you would like to share? I could copy you and Moya's.
Yeah, I'll write it in the chat because it's probably easiest.
Brilliant, thanks. Yeah, we will save the chat, so anyone that wants to be in contact, we've got an email list as well, and social media. We're Northern Seed Sov on different social media. Cool. Yeah. And also the Lancaster Seed Library, I know they've oh no, they've been growing quinoa particularly, but they probably grow amaranth. So I've grown it in West Yorkshire.
Interesting.
And there's some real enthusiasts. In fact, one of the seed forums, there was a woman sharing about amaranth.
Okay.
A woman who Iona, I think her name is, and she was exploring she actually has Mexican heritage, so she was exploring that. She just came across amaranth and was like, oh, it's a beautiful plant, and got really excited about it, and then was like, oh, it's also Mexican like me. So
it's really interesting. On the plot next to mine was owned by a Pakistani family, and they knew the plant by a completely different name, which I can't remember now, unfortunately. I'm really annoyed that I forgot it. But they used to, I think I gave them some seeds at the end of the season because they couldn't find it anywhere and they really wanted to grow it and they remembered growing it. So that was really nice, like exchange that sort of encouraged me to look into this area a little bit more.
Lovely.
I think Charlie might correct me on this, but I think is amaranth related to our fat hen? I think it's part of the same.
It's a quinoa. Yeah, it's a quinoa pod in the same family. Quinoa, amaranth, fat hen.
Yeah, it's just that we have a very tiny plot on an allotment site, and there's a Pakistani gentleman who has a plot next to us, and we always pick the fat hen for the young leaves, for salad leaves. Yeah. And his wife came down one day and absolutely, we had a great big plant that I was actually saving for seed, and she was like, oh my goodness, I haven't seen this anywhere in ages, and can I take some? And that was it. And I was like, oh, okay. You go.
It's Iona, when she presented, she was saying how it's a really key plant in loads of places. I mean, it's still very key in Mexico and like Mesoamerica, and then also in Asia and in Africa. I think partly because it grows so well, so easily and so well, and it's got the leaves and the seeds. It's got a long season, so it's just a really useful plant. I tend to grow red auroch, which I guess is also a quinopod. I mean, I use it like spinach, but it must be because of the shape of it. That has a similar kind of, like, the seeds are abundant. I mean, if you let that self-seed, you have it everywhere for a very long time. But no, it's really I also have a passion for these Garden Organic had a project called Sowing New Seeds, And in that project, they were calling them non-traditional seed crops. I think that's not necessarily a very accurate description, because to groups that know them and grow them, they are often traditional crops. But yeah, amaranth, I think, was one of the plants we grew. Yeah, the project was particularly focused on plants that migrants had brought and adapted to growing on their allotments. It was mainly in Liverpool, Birmingham and Leicester, and then also a bit in Bradford. But yeah, I think those kind of crops are actually really important to a lot of cultures, like the leafy greens. I mean, they go a long way because you can have a bit kind of most days, and in so many different dishes. I love them. But yeah,
I think what was really nice about that kind of whole discussion about Fat Hen was that it was an immediate point of connection with a very different culture. And to be able to have a discussion about that, it just opened up that conversation straight away, and everything that kind of flowed from that about the different ways that we used it, and how we how it was cooked and how it was prepared. And apparently the guy's missus was a little bit disappointed. She said it wasn't as good as what she was used to. And
oh no.
it was quite an old plant. I was thinking this isn't going to be great, if I'm honest. But even that was just lovely to have that kind of discussion about a failure in a sense, and kind of laugh about it, and being able to share the young leaves with the chap. I should call him by his name. His name's Akhtar. Being able to share kind of the young leaves with Akhtar and explain how it was used in a different way, which was something that he'd never experienced. So I think it was just lovely to have that instant point of connection, a kind of cross cultures and cross languages, just around something which is essentially a weed in our garden. So it was lovely. Charlie, I was just thinking in the context of kind of Sheffield as well. One of the things that we discussed in our little kind of preliminary, I think we're supposed to be a bit more organised about it, but we just had a general chit chat before this session, was about the kind of the possibilities for urban environments, because seed generally takes up so much less space than actually producing a crop to eat, sort of producing a crop for seed. And I think amaranth's probably one of those plants where you could really get a huge amount of seed off one plant, and perhaps is particularly relevant to urban environments where space might be at a premium. So I think that's possibly something to kind of bank for the future, is how we can get people in urban environments with small spaces involved in this whole process. And I think seed saving is probably one of those things, or seed sharing is one of those things. So yeah, interesting points.
I'm glad you remembered that, Katherine.
Yeah, my mind's been ticking over since.
yeah, Melanie.
Yeah, I was just thinking as well, like you're saying, in the urban environments, because that's why I'm really interested in bringing it into Farm Start, because now we've got Farm Start going and we're being offered land sort of in and around the city environs, then it's a perfect link. We'll get the Farm Start vegetable sites going first, but then we could easily have one or two of them for seed saving and do introductory seed saving, which I think will be a brilliant addition.
It's certainly, we're running a Farm Start project in Middlesbrough as well, which is due to start in January. So Middlesbrough is one of the pathfinders with it's the Urban Agricultural Consortium and Land Workers Alliance project, I think. And we're one of the pathfinder towns. So we're starting in January, and that's definitely, it's kind of, we have allocated a space for seed saving within that, and we'll actually be teaching the course that runs alongside it, and it will be an integral part of people's training, which I think is having looked at the training courses for horticulture, it's seed saving is one of those things that's quite often just missed out of that whole conversation. So I think Farm Start offers a huge potential in combination with this. So
I feel like I went to one of their really early sessions on Farm Start and got all the paperwork, and I guess I've just been busy, and now I'm like, I want us to well, I guess partly we're in such an urban area, and we're on an allotment, so I don't know how it would work on the allotment, but I'd love to know more about where the Farm Start stuff is at now, because I know it's evolved a lot, and also what we could do about getting a farm start here, because that would be amazing.
I think there is a session, I think it's Tuesday morning as part of this conference from I need to find out because I think I'm speaking at that one as well. I think that's Tuesday morning with the kind of farm start update, so that as part of this conference there is that possibility of sneaking into that. But I think I was a bit worried about how relevant that might be to an urban environment, but actually it's kind of, we've managed to make it work within Middlesbrough, and certainly if Luke's in a situation where there's there are pockets of land that are available, I think there's big potential for kind of rolling it out in other cities as well. So yeah, I'll keep you posted anyway.
Yeah, do maybe we could put a link to that session in the chat. If you'd like to attend, Luke. That sounds great. Yeah, I was I think it's a brilliant idea. I guess because it's like half an acre to upwards, and like the idea is you can, well, I don't know if they've gone smaller than that, but I think it's usually half an acre start, isn't it?
I think we've got an acre, we've got access to 3 acres, but we're developing 1 acre between about 6 people. So they are, we've deliberately kind of said to people, you have to think about what you can do with a small space as opposed to a large space. This isn't a serial farm start.
But what's really interesting is that, I guess I was just thinking it was, a field scale thing, because even if you start on half an acre, I think the idea was always that you'd have more land to expand into as you progress. So for us, we've got 2 acres. Probably maybe 1 it's probably a bit smaller than, it might be a bit smaller than 1 than the growing area. The rest's like forest garden stuff. So yeah, I'd be really interested. How does it function? How are you part of it?
At the moment we've done the feasibility report for it, but I think the idea is that you do the feasibility study for it to find out whether it works and then do it based on that. But I didn't want to be held back for another year by waiting for a feasibility report that said it was going to work. So we've just kind of marched into it, and we're just finding our way through it as we go. But there's no kind of predetermined routes about setting up a farm start program. It's really about what's relevant. So and as part of that course, we've looked at all sorts of different models. So there's the Kindling Trust model, which is probably the most relevant to us, but we also looked at kind of Tamar Grow Local and a few other setups as well, which has less relevance because unlike kind of Luke's situation in Sheffield, what we haven't got is those pockets of land that surround our town. We have very big farms that are mainly livestock, with some kind of arable crops, but it's mainly livestock. So we've had to think about how we can adapt it to our particular situation, and so we found kind of things that are, it's quite flexible is what I'm saying, and we've been able to adapt a kind of broad model to being really relevant to the town that we're in. So but yeah, I think the kind of the growth and the development of seed saving sits really nicely within Farm Start as a possibility. Definitely worth kind of trying to marry these things up a little bit in the future, I think. So
yeah, we were also looking at a seed CSA model, which I think would, funnily enough, would actually fit well with the Farm Start. So it's kind of, anyway, it's good to think about how to do it where you are. It doesn't matter if you're urban or rural, but just like you said, Tamsin, who's also been on the intermediate course, she's very keen on the idea of Phaseolus coccineus, so runner beans, like the climbing beans for dried beans, but just really excited by how much you could grow and save for seed in a, an urban space, because it's a vertical crop and a, really abundant crop.
And actually, I don't know how anybody else is finding it, but I was picking runner beans last week, which for mid-November is absolutely phenomenal. So it's certainly, I think we do have an advantage in urban areas for having that kind of microclimate that does suit those kind of crops that need that little bit of extra heat as well, which is something else that's often overlooked, I think, as well. So yeah.
Shall we see Hayley and Finn, or either of the Liz's? Do you want to say anything about where you're at with seed? Hi, Liz.
Hi, I'm going to say a few words because I'm a bit out on a limb here. Charlie and I did a different conference session together, so hi. I'm Liz O'Neill. I'm the director of campaign group GM Freeze. So I'm not a grower, although funnily enough, that whole thing of urban areas and late crops. I live in Manchester and I'm still picking raspberries to put on my cereal in the morning. But you know, that's just, we have a few things growing in the garden. I'm not even the one who does that work, really. It's my other half who does most of it. But I registered for the conference partly because I'm doing, I've got a session tomorrow that's very much about campaigning stuff. But because, you know, we're facing a real crisis in GM regulation, we've got a government that absolutely wants to give free rein. I just kind of thought this would be a nice session to come and just kind of connect with people and hear lovely things to balance that. And just, I think we need to do a lot more work to bring an awareness of the threats alongside this fabulous constructive kind of alternatives that have been built. But I think the agroecology movement isn't really very good at connecting those. People tend to be either one or the other, and it's kind of, obviously it's because people are working so hard, but actually we get pushed out of debate because we're just campaigners, and I just think it's really important that everybody shares. And yeah, I just kind of thought it's a Thursday evening and I can hear some lovely inspiring things too. So thank you.
No, thanks for being here, Liz. Yeah, I think your message is really important. And, you know, when I've heard you speaking, it's very clear. I mean, instinctively, yeah, I really like your message and the way you talk.
I've still got to finish my slides for tomorrow. So.
Oh,
they're very familiar to anyone who was at the last event.
But I think that's part of it, isn't it? Like you said that I won't steal your line because it's a good one. But you know, the big people have, you know, big money to do their messaging, and so our messaging really we just have to be, I guess, really enthusiastic. And how can you not be enthusiastic about, you know, beautiful food, beautiful seeds, beautiful spaces, and like you said, really. I think for people who, you know, I think it's worth not assuming people really get it and saying, because on our packet we talk about open pollinated seed because these are locally saved, and on the website it's definitely, you know, and it says for localized growing instructions. I think the more you can really educate people in your local area, the ones that you know and you can reach, because they're not necessarily your usual suspects, if you like. They're not already necessarily growing anything, but if you can have the conversations, and that's why I chose to create quite an artistic packet that people who might otherwise not go for seed might pick it up and go, oh, what's that? Oh, what's open pollinated seed? Why is that different? And understand that actually if you grow for your local area, you're going to have something that's better adapted and you can share it. And it's in Bradford, we very much have a culture of DIY movement, as in, I'm sure Middlesbrough and Sheffield and Lancaster, you know, Northern England is very, you know, really good at the punk DIY, alternative, underground, kind of keep it out of the money system as far as possible, because you know, there's necessity, and necessity is the mother of invention. So I think people, I've really tapped into that, and that's, I've learned a lot being here. And I think that I actually think there's the urban seed movement gives me a lot of hope, because that's where I've learnt to grow. You know, I did have a great aunt who was in the land army, but I never saw her doing any growing. My grandmother did a bit. My parents didn't really. My father fertilized the lawn, so our plum tree did have loads of plums, but it was actually a neighbor who was a gardener, you know, in the large manor house in the village. But whoever inspires you in an urban environment, you've got quite a lot of easy contacts. There's people very close, there's allotments within walking distance. If you're in a rural area, you know, it can be further for people. So I do have a lot of, I mean, that it's also hopeful, but I have a lot of hope for urban environments actually. And seed libraries are often in cities as well, towns and cities. They may be in, you know, smaller places too, but I think it's the community connection where we'll often have, you know, a lot of diversity. So there isn't a complete dichotomy between community and small scale commercial, but I think it's the sharing where we actually come across a lot more often.
I think for me that's been really kind of the whole kind of the interest in seeds has opened up a whole new level of conversation in terms of how urban growers can contribute to a kind of a farming discussion, a farming forum. You know, a kind of farming has always been something that happens outside a town. You know, it wasn't something that I could personally be involved with because I wasn't a farmer, because I didn't have a lot of land. And actually, I think through kind of seed saving, I think I feel like a farmer now. I feel like I'm producing something that has a use beyond being a minor player in somebody's soup. You know, it's kind of it's allowed urban growers to have a voice in a discussion that normally is associated with much larger scale operations, and I think that's been really nice. And actually, kind of coming back to Liz's point about the politics about behind kind of seed saving, and that was something that really took me by surprise quite a lot. Was just I'd never really considered the whole kind of seed sovereignty issue before about, you know, why shouldn't we have access to these seeds? Why shouldn't we be able to save seeds? Surely that's the most fundamental kind of human right, is be able to have the tools and the equipment and the resources to grow food. And that kind of strength of feeling took me a little bit by surprise, actually. And I love this idea about kind of doing something on a really local level that has a global impact. Something that's achievable, you know, and it doesn't have to be massive. It might be you just saving one seed, one type of seed, but actually the message that's behind that and conveying and communicating that message to other people is actually really important and has a global context. It has a global voice. So I love this kind of, you know, like Charlie was saying, this dichotomy between the very local and the very big, and the very small and the very big. And I think that's why it's particularly exciting, is just those two kind of worlds colliding. I got a bit artistic there as well as political.
Hayley and Finn, are you there? Do you want to say anything about where you're at in relation to seed? You have a street WhatsApp. Oh, that's nice. Oh, you're having problems with the microphone. Okay. Oh, well, you can feel free to type in the chat. Hayley and Finn, if you can. And we've lost Luke. Still there? Oh no, you just
we've got hello,
yeah.
Hello. It's lovely.
Hello.
It's lovely to connect with you.
We're not such a big group, so take your time. Don't worry if you want to just chat in the chat. That's fine. Where are you based? Oh, Perthshire, thank you. Yeah, sorry, you did say. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, because what I noticed somewhere it wasn't exactly small print, but subtly, was that the Northern Real Farming Conference, you know, does include contribution from Scotland. And certainly in terms of our bioregions and the climates and soils and things, we probably have a lot more similarity, certainly once you get to Yorkshire and further north. Yeah, so the Scotland coordinator's doing some really interesting research into Scottish heritage varieties. So are there any particular things that you like to grow that you know were bred in Scotland? Are you still there, Hayley and Chin? Oh, Elsa Craig tomatoes. I grew some too, and they actually did they did better than most of the other. I tried quite a few tomatoes. At the moment we don't have any polytunnel cover, although we've got the frames. So everything's outdoors, and I did save quite a lot, well, for us quite a lot of Elsa Craig, because some of them didn't get blight compared to all the other tomatoes. And Robertson peas, oh, brilliant. And how did you find them? And have you grown them before? Sweet and tasty. Excellent. That sounds like a good choice then. And that's one of the keys, isn't it? We grow for taste as well. It's so important.
I think I've saved tomatoes this year as well, and I've now had the proper instructions on how to save tomato seeds, and in the past I really haven't done it like that at all. But I was laughing because there's I think it's on the International Seed Exchange. There was a chap talking about well, he was calling it, so it was, or was it, maybe it was the intermediate seed course, was it about selection, I think, and selecting plants based around particular qualities, and this idea about stress testing them. And there was a picture of some tomatoes that were desperately dry, and I thought, that's my excuse now for everything that goes wrong. It's like, it's not, I haven't watered my tomato seedlings, I'm stress testing them for selection. But actually, yeah, I think tomato seeds they're really one of the easiest things to save. So if you've got something that's doing well in your particular kind of environment, I think it's well worth doing, because really you're only talking about a couple of kind of slices of tomatoes to be able to grow, to generate enough seed for that for kind of the next year, which is fab. So yeah, it's nice to have this kind of Scottish element, because I always feel like in the northeast we kind of more associate with Scotland than we do with well, anywhere down south, really, to be honest. So Liz, are you back with us? Are you still cooking? Liz Charles, that is.
Yeah. No, okay. But I'm just about to go out. Sorry, I'm not a very good participant this evening. Yeah, I've got to go out. What was I going to say? Oh, I have put something in the chat.
Oh, smashing! I think I've missed that.
Yeah, I've put a bit in the chat because is it safe to video? I don't know what I'll look like. Terrible, I think.
You can only see you at the top of your head. It's fine.
That's fine.
I'm on the floor at the moment. Yeah, because I'm a smallholder now. You know, I've retired from my day job, so yeah, we've done. I mean, I've saved seeds for as long as I can remember of some sort. Usually tomatoes and beans and stuff like that. Easy stuff. I've never tried anything difficult. If there's a danger it's going to interbreed with something else and I've got to cover it up with bags and this sort of stuff, I just haven't got the time.
Yeah, I think that was my idea as well. I was like, if it gets complicated, I'm out.
Exactly. So I've done, yeah, I find the best ones I find are things like, and with broad beans, I hardly ever buy them. Mm-hmm. We usually save loads of broad beans, and beans generally dead easy. And tomatoes, yeah, I think most of my tomatoes this year were grown from saved seed, so quite a few heritage varieties. So
can you tell us about this past radish then?
Yeah. Well, it's a winter radish, so we're eating it at the moment, and I just think it's brilliant because it grows quite big. We grow it indoors. I tried it outdoors, but didn't like it. So we grow it indoors, and it gets really big. I mean, it can get enormous. It can get about this big, but it doesn't go woody.
Oh,
So, however, you know, you can just leave it in the ground all winter and just keep picking one at a time as you need it, really, because it just seems to stay not edible, you know. So
That sounds amazing.
yeah, you don't cook it, you know, like mooly radish, you sort of cook that, don't you? I've grown some of that outside this year, but this one you don't, and you can just use it as a radish. It's brilliant. So
is it a long or a round radish?
it's just like it's a red long radish, yeah, but quite thick, you know, it's about this thick, so it's wider, fatter.
I love
What was
radish.
it called? What was it called? Sorry.
Pasque, Pasque.
That's interesting.
I don't
Is
know
that-
whether it'll ever come back in the heritage, you know, because that's where I got it from originally. But when it wasn't there, I sort of thought, you know, panic, I'll have to grow some. So I just left it to go to seed for it. So I had to leave it, you know, the whole year. But it didn't take up that much room because I only had about two plants in the end that survived for the seed. But I got millions of seeds, you know.
Brilliant.
So I've given some away and whatnot because it's you get a lot of seeds just from what, you know, if you just leave one plant, you get plenty of seeds, but it's very good.
Liz said it. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, I found the Heritage Seed Library have been brilliant, where there's things that have been taken off their list. They've been so helpful in providing seeds.
They'll give you seeds so you can carry on, yeah.
And
It's useful to know that, yeah.
I mean, I was really touched by the fact that somebody had gone in during essentially lockdown into what in my head was like a big freezer, and gone in on their day off to get me some seeds out of that. But this, they've always, I think, been really helpful, which is great, really, even if there's not something that's kind of something that's not on the list, which is fab. So
yeah, it's very good. So I'm sorry I've got to leave you.
Well, thanks for stopping by. Yeah, great to meet you.
I've enjoyed it so far. Yeah.
Would you like to be on the Northern Seed Savers email list, or we're on social media?
There's a group started locally, but I don't think I've done anything yet. You know, in Weardale.
Where's that? Oh,
well, that's where I live. So in County Durham, there's two dales, the Northern Dale and the Southern Dale, Weardale and Teesdale, and they're further up the dale, further over to the west than I am. So I don't think they've done a lot yet, but I think they're going to have an event. I suggested we had it in about January, February, because I certainly won't have sorted out any seeds before then, probably. So I think they're going to have some sort of seed swap or something.
great.
Yeah.
Always let us, if you want to let us know any events you've got. I can always share them, you know, across the
so if you're
network.
happy to the list, then maybe I can connect these two groups up, because I'm sure if they're not already on your list, then
What's your email then?
my email. Oh, shall I put it in the chat?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll do that and then I'll disappear.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know where I am.
Have a good
There's
evening.
There's a question in the chat as well, Charlie, about your CSA. How do you see a seed CSA working? What's your sort of idea?
I mean, the reason I've been thinking about it, like I say, is we've got quite substantial polytunnels, but we've had a lot of vandalism, so we've just got the frames at the minute. So we can't grow the amount of crop we would grow under cover, but we can certainly grow salads year round and other things, you know, that grow outdoors fine. And then I was kind of thinking, well, like we've said, because it's an urban environment, or like an urban environment, you can grow a lot of seed in a small space. And because there's so many people and people are more and more interested in growing, I was kind of thinking, well, you know, a packet of seeds might not cost a lot, but we could grow a lot, and that might actually provide us with enough income if it was like allotmenteers or home gardeners, and they know that the seed's adapted locally and it grows well. Then, you know, you might get people who want to sign up and, you know, kind of have a variety of seeds each month in the growing season, so that they know it's going to grow well. And so you could kind of have a CSA where people pay for a certain number of packets a month, kind of thing, a bit like a veg box, but you just have seeds instead. And then they grow their own, but they're paying for the seeds and supporting a local project. So what I've done this year, we've given out a lot of seeds through a project, and I need to work out whether we can, strictly speaking, kind of charge for the seeds, because we've got them anyway. But I'm like, yeah, but you know, do we always, I mean, it's nice to give things away, and it's nice that people can have them free of charge, you know, like local people that might not otherwise grow. But is there a way we could make that more regenerative in itself? Because we have to pay rent and stuff, and you know, we try to run our programs mostly free, but would there be a community that would want to pay for seeds, or would perhaps funders like allow it to be a thing that we charge, you know, to the project kind of thing?
It's tough, isn't it? Because we was kind of selling saved seeds for kind of 20p for an envelope without doing any testing or anything. And then it suddenly dawned on me, I was like, actually, is that legal? I don't even know if it's legal to do. And then I thought, oh, well, I'm sure somebody would stop you and say, actually, that's not acceptable. But it was a real tough, like, you know, it's nice to sell things in a way, because not only the income, but I think people value stuff that they've paid for, even if it's a nominal charge. But equally, it was really, you know, the fact that we were giving them away for such a small amount was just, it sparked so many conversations and about how people could save their own seeds. And, you know, there's people saying that since that they've been kind of collecting seeds from wildflower plants as they've passed and things like that. So it's difficult, isn't it, that you want to charge because it has to have value and it has to be sustainable, but at the same time it's really nice, it is really lovely. It's what could be more lovely than giving somebody some seeds to grow in their own space? It is
Yeah.
So.
I think that is really interesting. It's like that balance between like profit and community, isn't it? And like the way, because they were playing with the idea of starting a seed library in Sheffield potentially at some point in the future, and thinking about how you would you charge for it, and sort of like settled with like the idea if they like traded something with you, whether that was like a story about it or like, you know, a recipe or something, and then they could have the seed for free. But if they didn't do that, or they were buying from somewhere outside of Sheffield, then they would pay. So, and sort of like thinking maybe there's like rules that you can set up to balance that. I don't know, just an idea.
Sorry, I'm just saying goodbye to Liz. That's a really nice idea. I really like the idea of this. Oh, sorry. Story, you know, like I did a community project once where we had an apple for a story. So we had local apples, and we would be like, well, would you like to tell us a story? We'd love to give you an apple for your story, kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing with seeds is it's you know, like Katherine said, I mean, they can, and Liz said just then, you know, they can be so abundant. And so if each person that grows some seeds can give away some seeds, that's fantastic. I think what I've understood across the networks is that there is a place for you know, small, ethical, localized companies. And I think for us, if we were to run the CSA, you know, we'd test the seeds, we'd be really sure that they would grow, you know, really well. And that's not to say other seeds that people save and give away, you know, wouldn't grow well. I mean, they mostly will. But I think what we would do is just try to be quite, you know, rigorous about it to make sure. Yeah, and it could be an educational tool as well. So there's the science side of it where even for the seed library, I'm understanding, you know, you need to label things and you need to have what you call accessions. So like, you know, you might collect a load of seeds one day, but then you collect a load of seeds 2 weeks later from the same block, but they're actually slightly different because you've picked them 2 weeks later. So they might get a disease or something. So labeling them as that lot that got deposited then, that kind of stuff. So I think some of the organizing, once you start producing significant amounts of seeds, that then it's probably worth getting into you know, the labeling and the correct storing, and really, you know, ideally we need to do that for ourselves or for sharing with neighbors too. But I know that, you know, some of the stuff I've saved kind of just rapidly and put it in a box, I'm like, oh, these nasturtium seeds have loads of bugs in, so, you know, they've gone in my yard, they're fine in my yard, maybe some of them will sprout, but I'm not going to be sharing them with someone else. So so yeah, so I guess there is sort of a difference between commercial and community, but there is a fuzzy edge, and I do think they interact, and I think how they interact is actually really important and interesting. So and actually I think for some people, giving a little bit of money, even if it's a couple of pounds, to support something that they know is really good, you know, like, you know, it's like a little Christmas present. I mean, we've so far we only offer membership, and I'm sort of toying with the idea maybe the first year someone pays, and it really was just to get these packets done, to be honest, and to make it something special. So it eventually will cover the cost of the packets. But I don't think, yeah, I think longer term we really do need a lot more sharing. But I think there's a place for everything, isn't there? I mean, for example, in countries where you see sacks of seeds in the market, you would still, you know, you'd still pay a trader for a bag of seeds, wouldn't you? So I think that sort of market trading style is still something that's can be done really ethically, and, you know, has value, and people still meet and get to chat about the seeds. It's quite different to you know, the really large commercial companies. But anyway, I'm waxing lyrical or rambling. Oh, it's great to hear about, you know, different seeds people are trying and different approaches, and that's always the case. Yeah, you can start seed saving where you're at with what you've got. I mean, that's the amazing thing. We've lost yeah.
I'm sorry, Charlie, my internet's terrible. It keeps booting me out and coming back in, so I'm missing half of this. I think I'm sorry at the moment.
Yeah, no, sorry. I was just wondering. So that, yeah, we're only few, and I don't know whether, you know, more people would want to join. But yeah, what do you think would be useful, Luke and Hayley, you know, for your next steps? Is there anything that you know, I outlined that you kind of need or want to take things forward?
I think like I can't remember exactly the things that you mentioned from the reason why I put my email in the box. I think it was around connecting to someone in particular.
Yeah, Moya.
Sorry, my brain is a bit foggy because of this cold, so I'm not. I guess like the other thing is, I have an obsession with gardening books, and
nice.
I have a few books.
I'm so glad it's not just me.
It's great.
I have these, I mean, and so I was going to ask, I'll show you these books. Are there any other books that I should look at adding to my collection? So I found this one. Is it backwards? Can you read it?
Oh, that looks great. Who is it from?
William Royce Weaver. And this is, I think, a lot of his book is about flavour in particular.
Oh, that sounds amazing. And is that in the UK?
I think he's American.
Yeah. How do you spell his other William, and then what are his other names?
I'll write it in the chat.
Oh, thanks. That would be great. Yeah, then it's recorded for the people. That looks great.
Because most of the work that I've been doing at the moment is obviously quite theory based, because I haven't really had a space to do anything.
But you like your research.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, there's another thing in the US called the Culinary Breeding Network. So they're very much about breeding things for taste and cooking. So yeah, I'll share that in the chat as well.
And there's this one again, which is about heirloom varieties. So I'll write that one in.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Brilliant. Yeah, thanks.
Have we got Charlie, have you set up like a WhatsApp group? How
Well,
is that?
funnily enough, I haven't yet, but it is something that we could do. And I mean, it's a good, quite a horizontal way of connecting, isn't it? Because anyone can chat to anyone. So the only thing is, I don't know how people feel, you know, whether it's another, you know, strong flow of messages, you know, like how much people want that on a phone, or if they would prefer to be on email, or I think people differ, don't they? So I think we could do that and have a few admins if people want to. I have to admit, I sometimes have to just put my phone on flight mode because I'm just like, no, I can't be doing that right now. I mean, obviously, if I'm working, then, you know.
So is it every time somebody sends a message, then is it pinging off?
Well, obviously I can turn notifications off or silence it, but for me it's also just about being able to purely concentrate on other things sometimes. But yeah, no, I think a WhatsApp group is potentially useful, definitely. Yeah.
Possible.
Yeah, I think if people want it, then we can do it. That's fine. Yeah, I can suggest it, and I can add people from today to the other email list, that's the broader list, and then just say, would people like a WhatsApp? And if, you know, if there's enough response, then yeah, I'm happy. Oh yeah, so that's that's brilliant. And Sue's been teaching on Sue is very supportive of the programme. She's former head of the Heritage Seed Library. I mean, she's just amazing, and her book is excellent.
Great, I'll look into that.
I'll show, here it is. Yeah, that's Sue's book.
Oh, cool. Okay.
It's from I got it from Ecologic Books.
Okay.
So that's back to front, but yeah, they're good, a good eco publisher, and this one's really good. Carol Deep or Depp, Breed Your Own Vegetable Varieties.
Oh, that looks interesting.
It's a bit of a tome, that one. But it's really nicely written, you know, like really nice stories, and really inspiring. It kind of, for me, it goes a bit outside the box. So she's kind of saying, we've barely tried anything yet. She's kind of going, just go and start. Like, we've got all these wild crops, we've got cultivated crops, just go and start trying to find what you really like. And I think I like her approach, which is kind of she sees that as the future, really.
Can you put that in the chat, Charlie?
Yeah.
That one as well. Sounds
I'm really sorry, but I have to leave now because my dinner is being cooked
everybody's going
for me, which is very nice.
That's lovely.
But thank you so much for today. It was really, really interesting, and great to meet you. And please do add me to any like groups and things. I'd really be interested in being in part of them. So
get well soon. Get well soon.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope you enjoy your dinner and rest well. And, yeah, thanks for being here. It's been great.
Pleasure. All right. Bye.
Bye.
I was just thinking, Charlie, actually, that it might be really lovely. That's what's coming out of quite a bit of this, is the stories behind these kind of seed savers. It would be lovely to be able to collate those in some way, whether that's, you know, people sharing their kind of, I suppose, their journeys. It just seems a shame to have all these lovely little stories that just don't kind of.
I know.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. And I mean, I think in a lot of ways, for me, it's like the seed. I mean, in sort of older times, you know, the oral tradition, the storytelling really was key. And I think part of it is, as seed savers, meeting and telling, you know, new stories, whatever they are, wherever we're at. I mean, I can't imagine not wanting to meet up with other seed savers, really, because there's always something to tell, isn't there? And I think I like the idea of capturing them. I also worry a bit that it will be a bit like there's so many stories, but this, well, saying that, the Seed Forum is a place for well, every other month we've got the Seed Forum, and the idea is to, sometimes we'll have a particular topic that people have asked for. So the first Seed Forum was part of I think Oxford Real Farming Conference, and that was a storytelling session. I think if people really want storytelling sessions ongoing, you know, it could be a regular thing. I think the Seed Forum came out of that session, and there were various topics that people wanted, and they wanted people to come and talk, like a seed library. So there was one on seed libraries from various people talking about how to set them up and things, you know, do's and don'ts and all of that. And then we'd recently, there was this woman who spoke about amaranth, and is it Owen or Ewan? One of the guys from the Clafferny film spoke as well about the black oats and that story. So there are things around, and I think I agree that the stories are really key. I just I suppose it's kind of getting the right energy, you know, like going down the pub and you have a pint and and then you wax lyrical and people have a good yarn. That's I just wonder how well we can recreate that regularly online. I don't know. I think it's a bit of a question. I think it's true, people do love it. You know, maybe it's a quarterly, maybe it's a seasonal thing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? Because it's like, you know, the moment you take something from being kind of oral to being written, you lose that, you know, that you lose the character behind it sometimes, don't you? And I just think it's so, to me, it's the stories that kind of make the process as much as the seeds. And it's, yeah, how do we preserve some of that, and how, you know, because that's what keeps people going down the generations, isn't it?
It's true. I mean, just thinking even about this platform and the fact that we've already had seed stories told online and people have gathered and listened. Maybe if we set it up so it's speaker view, it might actually be good enough quality to take you know, the stories, the view wouldn't be quite so inspiring as it is when it's live, but you could still get somebody telling their story, and maybe we could just take snippets and it would just be like you know, someone's name, where they are in their story. So that might be a way of capturing it. I mean, we could actually look back over some of our footage and see if there's things to pull out, but to be honest, I do worry that it might be a lot of work. And I think really what we're trying to do is get people together talking more and sharing more. Do you know what I mean? Live, not live as in real time, even if it's not in real space at the moment.
I think the other thing is we are still existing in this kind of virtual environment, aren't we? And you know, it's I think as that starts to lift, there'll be a kind of liberation in sharing things as well, won't there? And I think that we are getting used to these kind of online forums. Actually, it doesn't replace the face-to-face. I think it'd be interesting to see how that kind of storytelling narrative develops when we're all kind of back to the point of actually being able to have a pint in a pub and talk about seeds.
I mean, the other option is asking people to share a little piece to, you know, on their phone, just saying, I'm so and so, I'm here, this is the seed I really want to tell you about because and here's a story. Like, that's an option. I mean, yeah, I don't know, I will reflect it back to the team as well, because we know stories are key, and storytelling, seed stories are key, but it's just and the forum has hosted that, and
almost like a kind of, I don't know, like I've got in my head some sort of, you know, like fairy tales, like almost, you know, as beautiful illustrations and that kind of mysticism thing. And to me, there's that's lovely, that history and that kind of, you know, this specialness of it all.
Well, I mean, maybe it's partly about creating stories linked to our theme, you know, like I know some of them are real life, but what about, like you say, the magical element of like what powers do these things actually give us, you know? I don't know. Tamsin's also got a thing about magic beans, you know, being a bean person. It's kind of, the magic is the abundance, isn't it? But it's also taste. I mean, it's also the beauty of the plants. It's the stories of the people who carry the seeds, where they've traveled. There is so much. And I think that's why Helena, you know, the Southeast coordinator or the South coordinator, you know, being at the London Freedom Seed Bank and in London, you know, massive, huge city, metropolis with so many people from all different places and so many different parts to our history. You know, there are the story, the layers of those different eras and how people mix, and the seeds and plants that mix it's so rich. I mean, you know, and all the cities across these lands have, you know, elements of those kind of layers, don't they? So food for thought.
It was your artistic seed packets, you see. You've set me off on another direction altogether now.
Well, I mean, art is important. I appreciate you sharing the t-shirt, Melanie. I want
the t-shirt.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
I actually, well, as part of the team, yay.
The illustrations are just beautiful, aren't they? They're so beautiful.
They're stunning, and they're still available on our website.
Great Christmas presents.
They do make great Christmas presents. I bought one for myself even. You know, we got them as part of the program, which was amazing, but I also bought myself one. They're lovely. Yeah, I mean, maybe the WhatsApp is a good way forward, because I guess it's sort of, people can write a quick chat in the moment they've got free, and then respond when they're free. So, and it does help, I think, with anyone kind of initiating things. So I'm more than happy to do that if you think it's part of what people want. And I thought about it for a while. I know for Katie, I think she's tried using WhatsApp in Wales. I can't remember if she said it does or doesn't work. Oh, I think the Southwest coordinator Robin, I think she does use WhatsApp. So yeah, I mean, it's worth a try, isn't it? And we'll just see how it is for people. Yeah. Cool. Hayley, are you still with us? Hope it's not been too difficult with the technology. Have you gone for your tea as well? Oh, you're still here, great. Is there anything else you'd like to say, bring us from, you're in Perthshire, is that right?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to bring us from Perthshire? I'm trying to think where Perthshire is. Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, Catherine's talked about the Stokesley peas.
Yeah, that's definitely, and I think oh gosh, I can't remember his name. There's a chap talking about a bean from Darlington.
Is that Mick? No.
No.
Who was?
Oh, do you know when? Oh, it's COVID brain.
Was it
Mark? It was Mark.
Yeah, Mark.
He was talking about did he call it a jack bean?
Yes, that's right.
Which is a polytunnel bean, but had been particularly successful in Darlington, so kind of, you know, it's similar kind of area to Middlesbrough. but had grown really well in the polytunnel, I think, but had worked well in that kind of climate. That's the one, thank you. I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of, I'm really fascinated by this idea about, you know, kind of things that are locally adapted. And I kind of feel like in my, if in just that small area of about 10-15 miles radius, we've got a very distinct pea and a very distinct bean, I kind of think there must be more. There must be more kind of varieties. And again, that might be something that's nice to collate as well, as these very kind of regionally specific varieties that we've got. And I think, you know, and just in terms of kind of climate change, that'll be quite interesting to see how those areas potentially change in the future. So something that might be suitable where I am now might not be so suitable in kind of 10 years time, and maybe it's something that we can be using to kind of track the changes to the climate as well. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear more about other varieties locally.
What was your bean, Catherine?
Oh, I haven't got a bean.
Oh, you mean the Jack bean in Darlington? That's not far, is it?
No,
so
it's about, about 10-15 miles. So
Richie, the Scotland coordinator, he alerted me to the fact that there's a cabbage called Bradford Bomb. I did get a packet, and I feel a bit bad. I didn't sow them this year, but I will either. Well, yeah, I'll sow them or make sure someone else sows them, you know, this spring coming. So yeah,
there's a Durham early cabbage as well, but I don't think that's particularly special. I think that's kind of like a Wilco's seed packet type thing.
Right.
Is there a Carlin pea as well?
Carlin peas, yeah. And actually, again, on the seed conference, I think who was it? I think it was is it Josiah from Hodnadods that talked about Carlin peas, but that's kind of very traditionally northeast. Although I know when I asked my mum about it, she just said, "Oh, they're bloody horrible. You don't want to be eating them." So I don't know where you go from there. But I'd love to hear about more, you know, more northern varieties.
Well, I mean, Richie in Scotland, he's very into researching, and I'd like to do more. I guess it's finding how to find the information. So there are the national lists of vegetable varieties, and the Heritage Seed Library, you know, has lots that are no longer listed. I think really that's their main purpose, is conserving things that might otherwise just disappear. So yeah, I did actually originally ask Katrina from the Heritage Seed Library for northern varieties, and also, like Luke was saying, really the other crops that have come from elsewhere that, you know, perhaps people weren't typically growing here, but then people have brought them from wherever they've come from and adapted them here. So that combination, I think, is really interesting. Like, what does really well, what has some heritage and stories, kind of new crops that perhaps we can add into our diets in different ways, learn from other people how they cook them and use them, and then also things that you know, adapted for the changes in, you know, climate and weather patterns and soil patterns that we're facing. So I think that combination is really interesting. I would, if people want to do that, that would be amazing. And I think it's ideally it's a collective effort, isn't it, really? Because, you know, people come across different things. The more we chat and the more we share, then the more we all collectively have access to and know about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how you find it, Charlie, but I kind of feel like I'm this like lone kind of slightly odd mad woman in Middlesbrough who talks about seeds. There's literally nobody who will talk to me about seeds.
Oh, really? That's sad.
Yeah, it's like I think I've bored all my friends to tears now. But actually, I'm hoping that kind of as those conversations open up, as it becomes, you know, as we get our seed library going, and we get kind of maybe some of the old timer allotment holders involved, that perhaps some more varieties do come out of the woodwork.
I'm sure.
I mean, that would be a lovely outcome for me, is if we can kind of bring those things to the kind of prominence that they deserve, really. So but at the moment, I'm very much a kind of yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of on my own a little bit here. Yeah.
But well, thank goodness you're there, you know, and Carol's still around. We've not seen her for a bit.
She is,
Anyway,
yeah,
she's
she's just struggling with full-time work, and that at the end of the day, I think so.
Sure.
Yeah,
no, it's a lot. But yeah, absolutely. I think I mean the WhatsApp might be a good place to start more of that kind of conversation, and then you know, I could start an actual. We could possibly use Airtable. Airtable's something that the Gaia Foundation gave us. We got a small amount of training on it, enough for me to go, oh, I really don't get it yet, but I would like more training, and it's I can share a link. The London Freedom Seed Bank use it, and they've used it to document the growers, the seeds, and the places. I just love it. I think it's a fantastic use of the Airtable, and it looks brilliant. Here it is. It's called the LFS base. I'll just show you because it's yeah, I'll put a link in here, and that's what I'm hoping to do for our seed library, but it will also be great to do it as a what's across the north. I mean, you could actually potentially have all the seed libraries and producers, if people want to, contributing and, you know, sharing the things they have. Hey, we've got a new person, Sam. I was just thinking, we've only got a few minutes left. Are you here for the next session? Yeah, so we could potentially talk about the cooperative idea and using something like the Airtable, because then people could say, oh, well, that's there, you know, that person's got that seed, brilliant, I'd love to try some of that. And it could be to share, or it could even be to sell, I think. I mean, yeah, so
be good to investigate that, I think. Yeah, again, it's like, you know, it comes back to the WhatsApp group as well. It's really difficult sometimes to actually kind of finding a method of communication that works for everybody, and actually communicating is so integral to things working. So
definitely. Sorry, I'm just looking for paper. I was going to just write down a few things to actually talk to the team about, because so yeah, so the seed stories and how to capture them, a list of what's available, a list of varieties, northern varieties. I mean, I absolutely love that idea, and really, like, I'd love to. And the thing is, if it's coming from the network, there's a justification for spending a bit of time researching. And then there's the Airtable idea, or other. I mean, there may be other things.
I think that's a great place to start. Those three things. Yeah. If we could get those nailed, that would be amazing, wouldn't it? So
brilliant.
Oh,
awesome. Again,
sorry for late entry, just juggling a 9-month-old. That's from Sam.
Oh well, hello, you're very welcome. And are you here for the seed session then? I guess you are.
I've got visions of somebody desperately trying to type while holding a how tricky. I've been there.
Yeah.
But I think many of these sessions are being recorded, presumably to make accessible at a later date, so at least people.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'll save the chat as well, so we've got everything covered.
Smashing.
Thank you, Mel. That's brilliant. And I'll add emails to this email list. Oh well, Sam, if you want to be in contact, you can you're welcome to add an email, and we can add you to our list, and there will be a recording so you can watch again, see if there's something of interest. WhatsApp, yeah, cool. Oh well, it's nice to meet people, share a bit. I'm glad you could be with us, Melanie.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, thanks.
So it's not long before our next evening meeting anyway, is it? December one?
No, I think I made sure it was early enough in the month that people aren't going, nah, I'm not doing that. I mean, just because I know what it's like. I mean, I'm feeling pretty good actually, but I know you can get tireder and as the days get shorter, and evening things in particular in front of the screen. Oh, but we need to have Christmas hats, don't we? Christmas hats, some kind of beverage, whether it's a hot chocolate, a spicy hot chocolate, or a alcoholic beverage. We should invite people to bring something along, and we could have the best vegetable jokes or something.
Yeah, dear, make it festive.
Yeah, I think we have to, really, don't we?
Yeah, I don't get out much, so.
Well, likewise, I don't think any of us do we, these days?
No.
Right, I'll bring it to a close and stop recording then, and I'll save the chat. Okay, it's been brilliant to talk to you. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks, Val.
Thank you. Thanks, Val. Yeah.
And thank you, everybody else.
Yeah.
Been nice. It has been nice, actually. So.
Yeah. Thanks.